Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Must Know Go. In this video we are going to be taking a look at 2-3-5 Joseki. The 3-5 is one of the more complicated opening moves. As I said in the opening moves video, the main purpose of this move is to aim to take territory on the top side of the board, possibly gain the corner, but that it does not want territory on the right side. And by far the most common Joseki variations come from white replying at A. And in fact, the most common variation is the simplest, which makes a lot of sense. There's no need to overcomplicate your games if you don't have to. And you'll see dozens and dozens of pro games that if a 3-5 is played, or if someone plays a 3-4 and then they play a low approach and then that person ignores it and then it will revert to a 3-5. You're going to see the most common reply by black is to lean here. So this move effectively takes away the diagonal as an option for white, which white might want to do if white were to get the next move here. It's just a very clean and obvious move. It just aims to take influence toward the top side of the board and to limit white to the third line on the right side of the board. There's no tricks involved here. It probably is the best thing about this move, that it's just really clear what's going on. In order for white to not be sealed into the corner, white plays here. And this is pushing black from behind, so white doesn't want to do this too much. Black then plays here, just, again, aiming for influence toward the top side of the board, but white, because white does not want to push from behind for longer than needed, and since these stones have 5 liberties, and that's plenty, white jumps with a 1-point jump here. And this is a shape that if you watch the 4-4 video, you should recognize that black is holding a vital point in white shape here, and that later on there could potentially be a weakness at S14. But for now, white is plenty strong to play this way. And usually from here, black will play a move somewhere on the top side, and that move will be somewhere in this region, depending on the circumstances on the board. The most common is here at D, but depending on the situation, any of these might be more appropriate. And after black plays this move at D, white is free to play elsewhere. Something to note about this is that this is a Joseki where, although black had the first move in the corner, white gets to come away with Sente. White gets to play the first move somewhere else. There are follow-up sequences here, but we're not going to be talking about those in this video. I do want to do a video at some point that talks about extended variations resulting from this and some other 3-5 moves. But for the purposes of these videos, I want to try to keep these as simple as possible. So let's take a look at this again. Black plays a 3-5 stone with the aim of gaining influence toward the top side of the board, possibly to get something in the corner, but not aiming toward the right. White plays here, the 3-4, in order to get the best possible local result, aiming to either get influence toward the right-hand side of the board or the corner, or possibly both. Black, wanting influence toward the top, leans like this, forcing white down onto the third line and aiming to take influence toward the top side. White pushes from behind once, making sure that their stones do not become weak. Black plays here, just continuing to build influence, allowing himself to be pushed from behind because that's good for black. White jumps in order to not push from behind anymore. And then black, not wanting to push from behind himself, goes and plays a move in this area, most likely here, but potentially some other move in this region. So that 3-5 Joseki is really simple. Unfortunately, one of the reasons that a lot of people like to play the 3-5 is that it can result in Joseki that are not simple. They can be quite complicated, and it can be difficult for a player playing approach move to get a good result if they don't know how to deal with it. I want to keep these videos simple because to me the point is supposed to be going over things that are essential in order to play Go without feeling lost. But at the same time, in order to talk about this move, I also need to mention some of the more complicated things that can happen when white plays this approach move here. So I wanted to start off simple with just showing this lean, but black does have many options here. Possible follow-ups are the lean, but then black can also back off and play a 3-space extension like we looked at earlier in the 3-4 video. And black can play pincers in this region. And of course, by far, the most famous reply by black here is this Long Night's move, which is sort of a combination of a pincer against this stone while also trying to seal white in. It's referred to in Japanese as the Taisha, which means the long slant. And it is notorious for being a variation that is very difficult for both sides to play. So a lot of people that play 3-5 are going to want to play Taisha. But I don't really want to cover all of the intricacies that are involved in playing the Taisha proper, because those variations can get really complicated really quickly. So instead, I'm going to show you guys how to avoid the Taisha, and in a future 3-5 video, I will be showing the Taisha in all of its wonderful and complicated glory. If you want to know more about the Taisha, there are a number of videos here on YouTube. I would recommend Nick Sabicki's 5-3 lecture, and I will link that in the description if you would like a look at the Taisha from somebody who is a double-digit Q teacher. But for now, I'm just going to tell you how to not play the Taisha if your opponent decides that when you make this approach move, they want to play Taisha. And in particular, this variation is how Shusaku avoided the Taisha. In one of the earliest recorded Shusaku games, his opponent played Taisha and he chose not to play out the Taisha variation. And the move to do that, it's kind of interesting. It's here. This move is actually the same as the move for if black just plays here directly, and white goes here. So if black wanted to, black could just play Q15, but then that would be reverting to the same variation. And the point of this move was that black apparently thought that just leaning on white wasn't going to be good enough. And there is a better option for black. Black, instead of leaning here, can play here. And this move more fully connects black's stones. And in that way, it gives black a bit better influence toward the top side than if black had just played Q15 directly. However, white doesn't need to be upset about this at all, because in addition to black being stronger, white is also stronger. You'll note that white has this Q15 liberty, and so white will still play this jump. And then now black will again play a move, probably here, somewhere in this region, in order to build influence toward the top side of the board. And you will note again, this results in a variation where white now gets the first move elsewhere on the board, even though black had the first move in the corner. So let's take a look at this again. Black plays a 3-5 stone, most likely hoping to build the top. White approaches at the 3-4, hoping to potentially build either in the corner or along the right-hand side. Black then chooses to play Taisha, and white, hoping to keep the game simple and not wanting to deal with overly complicated variations, plays here. Black connects all of the stones on the outside, again, hoping to build the top side of the board. White jumps so that they're not sealed into the corner, and black builds on the top side, and white is free to play elsewhere. So those are two variations resulting from a white approach at A. And while I would recommend that if your opponent plays a 3-5, that you play at A because you're going to be getting the best local results, I have noted that a lot of Q players, in games I've seen or in games I've played myself, they really like playing C. They really like this move as a reply to the 5-3. So I want to talk about what the follow-ups are with this move, how it is that black can take advantage of the fact that white's not aiming for the corner, and how, if this move is played by white, white can still get a decent result. So the main purpose of this move is to build toward the right-hand side of the board. This move is not aiming to take the corner, and the 3-5 stone, it can build the corner. It's very possible to play a corner enclosure at R16 after playing this move, and that is exactly what black does when white plays here. This move wins the corner for black, while also still allowing black to have some potential for influence toward the top side of the board. It also undercuts the white stone. White has no base, so white descends, making sure that white is able to make a base. Black now has an opportunity to undercut white again, and even further solidify the corner so black can descend. This might look kind of scary, that white might have some kind of shenanigans to cut through here, but there's nothing that works directly immediately, and white stones are still just hanging out here with no base, so white will make a base of some fashion over here on the side. And now black, again, really kind of wants another move in order to make sure that black is able to develop the top side of the board. Additionally, this cut could become problematic in the future, and it would be nice if black had a really easy way to remove Aji from this while also building the top side, and that move to do that is right here. This move is a vital point in black's shape that helps to defend this cut while also raising this stone to the 4th line and offering black development toward the top side of the board. The downside of this, of course, is that now white's group, while undercut, doesn't really need another move. White could descend here to S15 if they really want to make sure this group is solid. However, since the main purpose of playing this move was to develop toward the right-hand side of the board, there might be a larger move to build points here, like at P11, so white might just end up playing elsewhere and not worrying about this weakness yet until later in the game. So white is free to play away from here without any horrible results happening. So let's take a look at this one more time. Black plays the 3-5 stone, hoping to get influence toward the top side of the board, maybe to get the corner, and white plays here at the 5-4 point, forsaking the corner in exchange for getting influence toward the right-hand side of the board. Black plays here, kind of making an enclosure for the corner and keeping white out of the corner, undercutting white's stone and making points for black. White descends, trying to make a base. Black descends, solidifying the corner and undercutting white again. White makes a base anyway, jumping 3 from the 2 stones. And black plays this shape point here, trying to defend any weakness that could be coming from this cut, while also giving black the ability to develop toward the top side of the board. And white is free to play elsewhere. Now, for this last variation, I've mentioned before that Joseki, playing it should not be a mechanical process. It should not be something that is just done for no reason. So I want to show you guys a variation for if white plays this 5-4 stone without having a very strong claim on the right-hand side of the board. And so I'll set up a couple of stones here. So to add a little more context to the situation, let's say that the board looks like this. You can see here white mostly has influence and territory on the bottom side of the board. Black has a very nice formation along the top and left-hand side, and the right-hand side is mostly not played on. If white were to play here or here, this would actually be a direction of play mistake, because black really, really wants to build the top. And black probably doesn't care too much about the right-hand side. So if white were to play here, black would just lean, and this would be a phenomenal result for black. However, white really does want to build the right-hand side of the board. So, for white to play here would make a lot of sense. This move not only is building for white on the right-hand side, while it is giving black some territory, it is also kind of leaning on this stone and limiting how much black can get on the top while building for white. In a basic way, this move would make sense. But then when black plays here and white plays here, now the problem is that, yes, black could win a nice corner with this move, but white's aim with this had nothing to do with wanting to make a little base over here. And this is what I mean when I'm talking about, you don't want to play Joseki mechanically, you don't want to play it blindly, you want to play it thinking about how it affects the rest of the board. So for white, white doesn't really care if black plays some kind of a pincer stone in here because white is strong enough to counterattack it. So for white, if black descends here, white's probably going to do something like this and just lean on black. And if black just allows this to happen and just follows along with what white's doing with something like this, Then now white's going to get a move here, and white doesn't care about being undercut or any threat of this wall getting attacked. This game just went from looking like one that black was surely going to win to one where white now looks a lot better than black because white has so much influence, and black, what could have been glorious fourth or even fifth line territory for black, has all been pushed down onto the third line in exchange for just giving black some points in the corner. So this would be a very bad result for black. So instead of playing this move, the correct move for black is to play here. And this looks really weird because it looks like black is being way too defensive and trying to defend this cut, but this move has nothing to do with defending the cut here. This move is all about the global situation on the board and about how white has the potential here to really limit black. This move not only prevents white from playing a move like O16 to limit black, but it also threatens a very harsh move at P15, the Hane at the head of 2 stones, to limit white. So, in a situation where this move is being played as a way to battle between 2 large areas of influence, 2 frameworks, like this, after this sequence, black wants to play here, because this move, while locally not helping black as much to win the corner and feeling kind of slow, on a global scale, it does a lot more to help black to prevent white from limiting the potential of their framework while also threatening to limit white's framework. From here, there's really only one move for white. If white plays anywhere except P15, that is going to be black's next move. So white plays P15. Black then takes O16, which brings black up to the 4th line and allows black to actually develop a very nice framework on the top side of the board. And now white's 3 stones are pretty much just floating, and it's kind of dangerous for white to go all the way over to Q10 or to R10. That's just a little bit too far considering how strong black's corner is and how close it is to white's wall. So white usually wants to play something either at Q11 or R11. In this situation, white would definitely want to play at Q11 because white has so much potential here. And looking at this board, this to me feels about even. Black has territory in this corner and territory in this corner and plenty of development on both the top and left-hand side. White has territory in this corner, potentially territory in this corner, although there are things that black can do against an enclosure like this, and influence toward the bottom and right-hand side. And it's black's move, and a big follow-up move in this Joseki that would probably be appropriate in this situation. This stone might be a little bit close for this, but it's a good move to build your own framework while limiting whites. And that move is here. This is a really nice follow-up if you end up playing this variation of the Joseki to build for yourself while limiting your opponent, which should be the only time you end up playing this move in this Joseki. If on this move, white is going to be making points here, and it's not just about building influence, it's really about making points, this is the move to play. But in a situation where it's just a battle between frameworks, where it's all about influence, you want to play here. So let's take a look at this again. On this board, white has decided to play here as a way of building for themselves while also limiting black. Black takes the corner, gaining a lot of points. White descends, again, working to build influence. And black, instead of descending, plays here, threatening a Hane at the head of 2 stones while defending against a potential weak point at O16. White stands up, preventing the Hane at the head of 2 stones, and again aiming at weaknesses in black's shape. So black defends those weaknesses, bringing the stones up to the 4th line and allowing for good development on the top. And then white follows up, playing either at Q or R11 as a way of helping these 3 stones while also developing their own framework. Later on, this move is really, really big for either player. In this situation, it could be appropriate to take this move immediately as black. So there you have it, 3-5 Joseki. Let's review what we have learned today. When black plays a 3-5 stone, the main point is to develop toward the top, potentially to win the corner, and allowing white the potential to develop toward the right-hand side of the board. This 3-4 approach is the most common, and the most common follow-up is black leaning here. White follows. Black allows white to push him from behind. White jumps, not wanting to push from behind anymore. And then black follows up playing some move in this region, allowing black to develop toward the top side of the board. If, when white plays this move, black plays here, threatening to start the Taisha, white can avoid the Taisha by playing here. Black then connects at P15. White again jumps, getting out of the corner. And black plays a move somewhere in the K17 region in order to develop the top side of the board. If white really wants to develop toward the right-hand side of the board, then white can play here at the 5-4 point. Black will then go here to win the corner and undercut white. White descends. Black can descend to undercut white and make sure that white doesn't get points in this region. White can jump to here to make something of a base, and black can play here in order to defend a potential cut point while also developing toward the top side of the board. And finally, in a situation in which you're battling between two frameworks, if white plays here in order to build for themselves while also limiting black, black can still play the same way, but now instead of playing at S16 to undercut white, which would be too slow, black can play this move, which, while it looks slow, is actually doing more to influence the global situation, threatening a Hane at the head of 2 stones, which white cannot allow. Black then defends shape weaknesses, building the top side of the board, and white follows up, making sure not to jump too far from the wall considering how strong black's position is. Later on, this move is very large for either side, and in this situation could be played by black. So, those are 3-5 Joseki. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have found this video to be informative. If you want to learn more about 3-5 Joseki, and in particular how to actually play out the Taisha, you can take a look at Nick Sabicki's videos. I will link to his 3-5 video in the description of this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope that you all will have a wonderful day.